This just kind of twists in here, maybe. Here we go, attaching a lens. Ah, there we go. It's time to start creating. Earlier this year, I bought my first mirrorless camera, the Canon M50, and I've really been enjoying getting to use this for my vlogs and for my talking head videos and learn how to use this. Now, prior to this, I was using my smartphone, and maybe that's what many of you are using right now, or maybe some of you are just wanting to get started creating video content for YouTube or social media, but you're not sure what you should start with. I'm going to attempt to answer this question for whether you should buy a nice camera for creating video content, and if not, what you should do instead. Now, I want to give a disclaimer that this video does include affiliate links, and that's because I'm going to share a bunch of the gear that I've been using and that I also personally recommend. So if you decide to purchase any of this gear, by using my links in the description below, it won't cost anything to you, and it does help to support the channel and help me create more video content. And most of these are Amazon links, and so you're not going to find a better price out there. Now, one thing you need to know is that buying video gear can be a bit of a rabbit hole. Since buying the M50, I've also invested in some other video gear. Most recently, I purchased my very first lens, and I'm already researching possibly the next lens I might get. So just keep that in mind. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that you don't need all of this gear to get started. In fact, I would actually discourage against it. I actually think it would be a big waste of your resources to get this gear this early on, and it can get pretty expensive. That's because you could have one of the nicest studio grade cameras and the nicest lenses, but you're actually not going to get a good result with them without a good foundational knowledge for how to use all this stuff. So what I'm going to recommend instead is that you only level up your gear as you level up your knowledge. And so to do that right now, I think you should just start with what you have, which is your smartphone. Because if you do start off learning some basic principles, you can actually get a nice quality video out of your smartphone. And to prove my point, I've actually been filming on my iPhone this entire time for the beginning of this video. Prior to this year, I've been filming all of my talking head videos on this channel and all of my other travel videos on my wife and I's channel just on an iPhone, and I recommend that you start off doing the same. And so the first thing that I really think that you need to master first is your lighting and your audio. And so instead of buying a camera, the very first purchase I think you should make would be a microphone. So my very first talking head video like this, it just sounded bad because the audio was just echoing all around the room. I knew right away that I needed to invest in a microphone. And so I picked up this lavalier microphone, the BOYA M1, if you can kind of see it right there. And I actually really like the quality of this microphone still to this day. In fact, I would still be using it if it weren't for the fact that it actually takes batteries when you're using it with a DSLR or mirrorless camera, but it actually works perfectly with a smartphone like I'm doing right now. It doesn't require batteries because it's powered through the phone. I only just recently switched over to the purple PANDA lavalier mic, and this is another great budget microphone, but it doesn't require batteries. It's powered directly through my M50, and so that's why I use that now. So if you like how this audio sounds right now, you may want to pick up the BOYA M1, and later on I'll be using the purple PANDA in this video, so you can also compare to see which one you like the best. Now, one last thing I want to mention, if you are a vlogger, I actually wouldn't really recommend a lavalier microphone as much, but you can pick up a shotgun mic, and this is the Rode Video Micro, and I use this as well, and this is a great portable mic. It actually sounds pretty good. So audio, super important, but if you want to get a nice clear picture on your video, then you really need to focus on your lighting. Now, the reason I recommend getting your mic first is because in the meantime, especially if you're on a budget, you can take advantage of something that's at your disposal, which is natural light. So if you look behind me, I'm actually right in front of a window here. And if I kind of position myself right in front of the window, I can take advantage of the natural light that's coming in. And so if you don't have the money yet to invest in a light, then this is what you should do. But if you do have the budget for it, the next thing that I think you should invest in is a decent light, like this ring light that I have right here. Now this has been really nice. I've actually used this from the beginning. I'm still using it in this video right now, as you can see. The great thing is it comes with this tripod, which you can actually mount your phone or even a camera up here if you want to. Now if I turn this off, one thing I'll let you see is that it actually has these different filters. It comes with 4 of these white panel filters and 4 of these orange ones as well, depending on the type of lighting you're trying to get. Now I find that I want to have a more balanced look, so that's kind of why I've kind of combined them in here, and it helps to get a decent skin tone. But if I turn this on, you might be able to see that you can actually kind of increase and decrease the brightness. I'm not sure if you can see this on the camera right now, but that's really nice, so you can kind of get those different levels as well. So let me kind of sit this back down here. And now it's just a matter of doing it. You have to actually start, because you're never gonna get better until you just start. Just realize that your very first video, like mine, my very first video was probably my worst video of all of them. But they've gotten slowly better over time. And that's just how this goes, because you start to learn more about using your light, using your microphone, using your camera, all these things to get the best video possible. And only then, only once you've mastered these things, do I think that you should upgrade to something like the Canon M50. And so you can see how this looks, I'm going to transition over to using my M50 right now. All right, so now we're filming on the Canon M50. And what I think you'll notice right away is the difference and the quality between the smartphone and this camera. But of course, with that difference in quality is a big difference in price. So the M50 usually retails for between $650 and $700, kind of in that price range. But I do really love this camera. Now, another thing I want to mention is that I'm also transitioned over to the purple Panda microphone. You can kind of see here, might be hard to see it, but I'm just curious to know if you notice any difference in the audio quality. Do you think it's better or worse? Do you notice any difference in the tone? Just let me know that in the comments below. So for those of you who are at this stage, or once you reach this stage, I think you'll quickly realize that there's quite a big learning curve to having a mirrorless or DSLR camera. Honestly, I was pretty overwhelmed when I first got my M50, but again, I just jumped in and started using it, and that's just how I was able to learn over time. Now, the thing that I recommend that you do when you first get your M50 or whatever camera you end up buying is to just shoot on auto. So use all the automatic settings to adjust your white balance, your ISO, and all these things that you probably don't know very much about right now. And so if we're talking through the different stages that I think you should walk through as far as your knowledge base and upgrading your gear, I think the first thing is the lighting and audio. The second thing is getting your nice mirrorless camera and shooting on auto. I think the third thing should be actually learning to shoot manual. Now what this means is that you manually set some of these settings, and it can help you to get a better picture and a more consistent picture. So one thing that's great about shooting on manual is that I can get a much blurrier background, a much wider depth of field. The kit lens that this camera comes with has an f-stop of 3.5 as far as the lowest that it can go. And so by shooting on manual, I'm able to crank that all the way down to f3.5 and get this bit of a shallower depth of field. I think if I had done it over again, I probably would not have actually purchased the kit lens that comes with the Canon M50. The nice thing about the kit lens is it's very versatile. It can work in a lot of different situations, but it's kind of like a master of none. It can do a lot of things and yet do nothing very well. So instead of getting the kit lens, I probably would have picked up the Canon 22mm, and this is a very tiny lens, but it actually is a really nice looking lens, and it delivers a nice shallow depth of field. I think the f-stop is f2, so again, the lower the f-stop, the blurrier the background is going to be. I'm also able to adjust my white balance, and this can help save some time in post-production, where usually this room actually ends up looking very warm monochrome, and I don't really like how that looks generally, but if I'm able to set the white balance, it's going to look kind of like it does right now. I'm not going to apply a lot of extra settings on here except for a basic color grade. So the way that I go about getting that white balance, I actually picked up this white balance card. And you basically, what you do is you point the camera at it and actually take a picture of this, and it'll actually use this to set the settings for the white balance. And just for a quick explanation on white balance, it's basically making your whites as white as possible, just an even white color. There's not any additional oranges in there or additional blues in there. It's not too warm or too cold. And I'm sorry, that may be getting a little too technical, but again, that's why I recommend that you just slowly level up your knowledge base along with leveling up your gear. So as I mentioned before, I actually recently invested in my very first lens other than the kit lens, and that is into this Sigma 16mm, and this is a f1.4 lens. So that means it's going to get an even blurrier, shallower depth of field. And so let me show you what this looks like right now. And now here's how it looks with the Sigma 16mm lens. As you can see, the background is nice and blurry. You probably noticed that it's actually a little bit brighter than the other lens, and that's because the lower the f-stop, the lower the aperture, the better it can handle low light situations like in this room right now. So the reason that this stage of learning about lenses is really the next level is because it does come with its own knowledge base of itself. Now, I didn't really know a lot of the stuff that I even just was talking about with the Sigma lens until just recently. In fact, I made a lot of mistakes trying to purchase my first lens or trying to upgrade my lens. So I had actually first purchased this Viltrox speed booster at the recommendation of another YouTuber. I thought that it was going to be able to increase the quality of the kit lens that I already have. But little did I know, this is actually an adapter also for a full-size lens. And what I didn't know is that my Canon M50 doesn't support full-size lenses, which is why you would need something like this. But it also means that this is not going to support the kit lens because it is a much smaller lens. And so when I got this and I figured this out, I figured, okay, well, I might as well actually purchase a lens that I can use with this. And so instead, I actually purchased the Canon 50mm lens, and this is actually a really nice lens. I've used it once or twice alongside the speed booster, but in the end, it really wasn't the kind of lens I'm looking for. What actually happened was I would have to stand very far back or sit very far back in order to actually get in the frame because it really has a big crop factor. It really zooms in on your face. And that's not really what I was looking for these talking head videos. And also I do vlogging. And so I needed something that actually was a much wider lens that would actually give me a much wider range. So more than likely I'll probably be returning this very soon. But that's when I discovered the Sigma 16mm, which is what I ended up with. And again, I really love how this lens looks. So I say all of that to reiterate my point that you really need to level up your gear alongside your knowledge base, because once you upgrade your gear, you're going to have to learn how to use that. You're going to have to learn a lot to figure out what's right for you. So again, first thing, figure out your lighting and audio. Second, you can purchase a mirrorless or DSLR camera and learn how to shoot with that on auto. Then learn how to use your manual settings on your camera. And then I think the next stage, which is the stage that I just finished, is getting your first lens. And again, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm already looking for potentially my next lens because it's just one of those things. You really love getting new gear and trying to improve your video quality. So I know this has been a lot more of an informative video, but I really hope you found it helpful just to see the journey that I've taken in leveling up my knowledge and my gear simultaneously. And I would love to know kind of where you are at in the stage of your content creation journey. Let me know in the comments below, as well as any questions you have about any of the gear I mentioned. And of course, if you want to purchase any of them, you'll also find them in the description below. Lastly, it would mean a lot to me if you would just give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more great tips in the future. Until next time, enjoy the entrepreneur life.